Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. Hi Jason, I am currently doing squat, bench press, overhead press, deadlift, and weighted chin-ups, supinated grip to maximize bicep activation as my only exercises. Will my upper back development suffer because I do not do pronated or neutral grip pull-ups? I try them every so often, but they cause inflammation in my elbow, upper forearm. That's interesting. You probably just need to adjust your grip on them. You need to adjust your grip on them. Probably something I should cover later. But that's one of the things I'll give Athlean X actual credit for. I might dog him about the lack of strength and lack of his guys getting bigger, strong, anyone who he works with, as far as I can tell, while pretending to be a strength coach. But he's got actually really good advice on preventing that from happening, which you're describing with the way that you grip on a pull-up. Now, as far as that goes, are you likely to develop muscle imbalances? No, you have everything you need. Those 5 lifts will develop everything. They'll develop your entire body. You shouldn't have anything that's lagging, particularly if you build a rounded base on those 5 lifts. And that includes biceps. That includes your upper back. Maybe hamstrings, depending upon your deadlift volume. But even that's not that hard to fix. But here's what it comes down to. The only issue with sticking with just a few movements like that, particularly as you get more advanced, is that overuse injuries. There'll be periods of time to where it's not a bad idea to rotate through some similar variations just due to overuse. I mean, it's the stuff I have to do. But is that something you need to worry about in your first year? Maybe 2 years? Probably not. So that's the only thing to really think about with those. That's well-balanced 5 lifts. That's 5 of my big 5, more or less, what I recommend to people. But again, some variation can help with overuse injuries over time. That's what we're talking about. And those don't necessarily have to even be done as secondary movements. You can rotate them in from time to time, right? You can run a phase where you replace the bench with the dip and so on and so forth. But no, your list is just fine. You shouldn't develop any major imbalances unless you develop a strength imbalance on one of those 5, right? So you sound good to go to me. All right, next question. Coath. Can you do a video about flies? You never talk about them as a chest builder. Is all that stuff about different fibers being activated compared to chest pressing baloney? Yeah, it's all baloney. Like, what do you possibly think you could do with a fly that you can't do with some sort of dip or some sort of press? Do you think that you magically have more range of motion on a fly than you do on a dip or something? So what are you trying to do? Not use as much delt and not as much tricep? Well, you can't remove the front delts from a fly, right? You can't remove the front delts from a fly. You're removing the triceps. I mean, the only reason I can possibly think of why a person would ever want to do a fly is because their arms are just too damn big, right? If a guy says, my arms are so damn big, I need them to shrink, but I need more chest, right? You want your triceps to get smaller because your arms are just too big. You got like 22-inch arms and a ironing board chest, right? No pecs. That would be the only reason I could think of why a person might want to do flies. Otherwise, I would look at you and say, do you not want more tricep? Like, I'm sorry, I've never met anyone in my life who is concerned about their chest, right? Guys who actually worry about the size of their chest who want small arms, right? I've never met one. I've never met a guy who says my arms are too damn big, but I need big old teddies. They're too, So if that's not you, then why would you ever do a fly? Why wouldn't you just build more tricep with it? It makes absolutely no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. At least that I can think of, because I've just never met anyone in that situation. And hypothetically, they might exist. There might be a guy walking around with 20-inch arms who's a genetic freak who struggles to grow his chest, in which case some flies might make sense, right? If he was physique oriented. But I've never met that person. They might exist, and that person might want to do flies, but for everyone else, I think they're a complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. All right, next question. My press has been going up consistently on this bulk. I'm at 145 for 5x5. Abs and lower back have finally started to become the weak link. Is it time for a belt, or is there something I can do to strengthen that area? I beltless deadlift 385 with no problem, so I'm a little confused. Thanks. Your strength's not proportionate, brother. And for those who are new to my channel, the press, if you might be thinking he means the bench press, no, the press is the strict standing barbell press. That is historically what that lift has been called. Only in the last decade or so has there been any confusion when someone says the press as to exactly what lift they mean. So a lot of you guys call it the standing military press or whatever, but standing press with a barbell. It's done fairly strict. Your strength is not proportionate. Your strength isn't proportionate. A 385 beltless deadlift for a max for someone who can rep 145 on the press for rep work for multiple sets. You're not proportionate, bro. You're way stronger on the press. What do I mean? I think a guy who can do a 5x5 with a 145 press, I think we need to see a 500 deadlift. Not a 385. You need to be up in the 480 to 500 range to be proportionate. So your strength is not proportionate. So no, your core could be a weak link. It's time for you to start learning how to brace your core better. Now, if a belt will help you learn to do that, right? If you go put on a belt and it can help you learn to brace your core better on the press, it'll be a valuable tool. You could do that for a while and pull the belt back off if you want. But it could be valuable there. But I am going to tell you that it looks to me like if that's the most that you can deadlift when you're doing that sort of work on the press, you're not proportionate. Your core and your lower body is lagging in terms of your strength balance. So again, maybe work on your deadlift and squat a little more. All right, next question. Hi, Jason. Now that you're transitioning to bodybuilding, do you see yourself changing the content? I also think you should do some collaborations with men such as Greg O'Gallagher, Larry Wheels, and Nick's G4P. All right, man, I'm going to take your totally trolling question serious, and let's have some fun with it. And hopefully people understand that this isn't based on any reality. I'm not going to do bodybuilding. Yeah, man, I think I'm going to change my content up to, we're going to review webcams. We're going to review butthole bleaching kits and all that stuff that you need to be a serious bodybuilder, because I'm going to say right now, if you want to be a serious bodybuilder, you need an aesthetic butthole. And you need a really, really high quality webcam so that you can do your cam shows and everything so you can afford to be a bodybuilder. So yeah, I mean, I think definitely high on my list of people to collab with would be Nick's G4P, because he'd really, really put my name out there in the bodybuilding world and get me clients and everything. Just by being featured on his channel, there'd be dudes who'd want to send me money. Because that's pretty much what bodybuilding is about. Like the actual bodybuilding culture, that's what it's about. It's not really about training. It's a party lifestyle, right? It's a party lifestyle, mostly for rich gay dudes and people who like drugs. That's what the bodybuilding world is. That's not what they tell you in the magazines, but that is what bodybuilding really is. So yeah, no guys, I'm obviously not going to transition to bodybuilding. All right, next question. Hi, Jason. I'm a busy university student and want to implement 3 sets of 10 instead of 5 sets of 5 in your novice program. You said there is no difference in muscle gain between the two, but why do people tend to plateau faster on 3x10? Many thinks. They plateau faster because they're not gaining strength as quickly because you're using a lighter weight. Here's what I'm going to recommend. I'm going to recommend that you don't do this. Don't do this. Why? Why would you do this? You're like, well, I want to do fewer total sets. All right, well, do 5s. Do 3 sets of 5. All right, I have a cutting version of this program. The cutting version is for people who have less recovery ability, obviously because they're not eating more, or they have more limited time. It'll cut your gym time by almost 1/3. It'll get you out of the gym faster. And you'll be able to progress longer. I've told you guys recently, staying in the 5 to 8 rep range is the most efficient use of your time in the rep range that takes the longest to plateau on, right? So why would you go do sets of 10 when you know this based on what I tell people? Just do the cutting version. Do 5s. There is no benefit to doing 10s other than for periodization, meaning you reach a point where you're plateauing too much with the heavier weight. Running a phase of 10s can be useful in certain forms of periodization, but it does not have more hypertrophic potential than 3 sets of 5 where you are doing near limit sets. In other words, 3 sets of 5 that are within 1 rep that 1 rep short of failure has the same hypertrophic potential as 3 sets of 10 to get within 1 rep short of failure, right? As long as your sets are pretty well limit sets, the 5 will give you the same amount of muscle mass. It's going to take you a hair longer to plateau. You can be out of the gym in the same amount of time. Save 10s for volume phases in your periodization. That's where they need to go. And you don't need that as a novice. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.